Okay. There's no simple way to say this, so we're just gonna have a conversation. I want to talk about the possibility of a Resident Evil 5 remake. Now, there has been some talks, as you all may well know, about a possible Resident Evil 5 remake after the end of RE4 remake, where they had that cutscene with Wesker, basically showing what he's planning on doing next. Now, if they weren't planning on making an RE5 remake, then we know damn well that just wouldn't be a thing. That cutscene wouldn't have existed. I don't believe they would have put it there as some sort of Easter egg, and that's okay. I'm actually looking forward to it. I hope it comes out, honestly. And the real reason I'm making this video is because this is something that sort of plagued this particular game for a long time. Now, IGN recently made a video. I'm not going to play their video and react to it like everybody else has done. I'm sure you've all seen it a cajillion times, and I'm just one in the line of many other content creators that has made their own response video towards this. I want to just give you my own organic, unedited thoughts, and hopefully you gain some value from this. And I just want you all to really understand something. Now, as we all know, you can't spell ignorant without spelling IGN first. And that's what I believe this scathing perspective of theirs was, so to speak, because you need to be mindful about one thing. Forget about the fact whether you think Resident Evil 5 is racist because you have Chris Redfield, a white man in Africa, shooting a bunch of like black zombies, right? Like, let's face it, that's exactly what he's doing. But he's not shooting regular people. He's shooting people that are infected. It just so happens that it's taking place in Africa, in some fictional land in Africa that's not even real. So it's not even like you're attacking a particular tribe that's in that place, right? It's just where the game takes place. Now, historically, Resident Evil has always taken place in different countries, in different states, different land masses, right? Resident Evil 1, it was Raccoon City. It was a fictional city in the United States. That was also 2 and 3. Then part 4, which is the one that nobody ever likes to talk about, they only like to really mention Resident Evil 5 in this context, but they were in Spain in Resident Evil 4. So Leon was murking a bunch of Spaniards and nobody gave a damn. And you can't tell me that it's not the same thing. These people spoke Spanish to you directly. They would say, agárralo, or te voy a hacer picadillo, because I'm Latino, so I know damn well what they're saying. And you know something? I never cared. I don't think that ever bothered me. I just looked at it as, okay, this is where the game took place. And when the RE4 remake, it was the same thing. There was no controversy. It was a breath of fresh air that they did the game justice, right? We even got the Separate Ways campaign from Ada that ended up being superior to the original. Yes, it certainly was. Now, I don't want to sound like some grizzled gamer that's just like, leave my video games alone. But I just wanted to give you all a different perspective on this, because I don't know where this comes from that the game has to completely reshape its makeup so that it can appease a couple of people that it probably doesn't even bother. Because it's only bothering activists. Like, let's face it. I don't want to use the I have a ton of black friends card, but I do. I am a Latino. I am also a person of color, and I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in the tough streets of the Bronx, right? So I know people from all walks of life in that sense. And not one of them ever complained or felt that they were being attacked personally by playing Resident Evil 5. They all played it. They all loved it the same way I did. Now, granted, did it stray away from its horror roots? Of course it did. But so did part 4, and so did part 3. Let's face it, Resident Evil 2 was probably the last game in the series to be like real survival horror. They kind of ended up ramping it up after that, and with good reason. You're going to ramp up the experience. If the city is being infected, yeah, you're escaping from a city. It's not just a mansion anymore. And let's not even forget about Resident Evil 6. A good chunk of that game took place in China. They're killing a bunch of Chinese zombies. You know what I mean? Did anybody care? No. And you can't tell me it's because the game wasn't received well, because it did sell pretty well. So you can't tell me it's because it wasn't received well. That's just nonsense. You know what I mean? Leon, Chris, Ada, not Sheva. What was the other girl's name? Helen, I think it was Helena. I apologize. And Pierce, Jake, and Sherry. They all end up in China at one point in the game, and they're murking a bunch of Asian zombies, right? Nobody cared. It's only with this one particular group of people that for some reason everybody seems to lose their minds. And not even, because not even everyone's losing their minds. This is all artificial. This is all artificial outrage because, again, never growing up when I was playing that game, did anybody in my group of friends ever tell me, you know what, this is racist. I don't want to play this because I feel attacked. I feel offended. Right now, granted, you could always tell me, hey man, that's just your experience. This is anecdotal. Well, you know what? You can't always ignore anecdotal. How do we collect statistics? Statistics are merely a bunch of anecdotal experiences taken and put together in this database where they create a number that will ultimately reach their bottom line, right? So statistics are just anecdotal experiences put together at the end of the day. So you can't ever really say that someone's lived experience isn't relevant, especially someone like me that actually did live this life. You know what I mean? I did grow up in these streets, and I did grow up seeing a lot of horrible things happen. Now, I understand in theory, and I understand the need for these activists, because they're not really gamers. They're just activists at the end of the day. I understand the need to want to protect, right? Quote unquote protect, because I get it. Yeah, why not, right? You want a virtue signal. You want to stand on your high horse and act like you have the moral high ground. But realistically, you don't really care yourselves. You're going to play it anyway. You need to play it because you need to be able to say something negative about it once it comes out. Like, that's just the reality of the matter. People that get offended by these things, they need to be offended. They have to be offended. I've always found that funny because you'll complain and say that the game shouldn't be a certain way. But let's say Resident Evil 5 was remade from the ground up, right? Completely different story, complete fictional town where it's equal opportunity killing of zombies of all races, right? Let's say that were to happen, right? You're still going to find something to complain about, or your bottom line won't be met, and you're going to have to find something completely different outside of this game to complain about because you need the outrage. You love the outrage. I would even say that if you don't get the outrage, you'll be outraged over the fact that you didn't get the outrage. And that's just reality, because you're going to get upset because you want to be mad so that you can have something to write about. That's always how these things are, man. There's no actual solutions being offered up. What do you want? You want to change the game completely because of this one thing? The game takes place in Africa. So what? Okay, so then if we get rid of the African setting, right? Are we going to get rid of Sheva Alomar as well? That's a character that was added for the game. You know what I mean? There's other supporting characters of African descent, so we want to get rid of them too? I mean, you'd kind of have to, right? Otherwise, what reason would they have to be there if you end up changing everything about this game? Let me tell you something. Capcom's not going to change anything. They're going to do it, and it's going to be business as usual. You know why? Because they're Japanese. They're a Japanese company. This wasn't a game that was made in the United States where there's some, political bias or of some sort. Like, this was made by a completely different country from a completely different cultural background that has their own beliefs, their own politics, their own ideologies. They don't care. Straight up. You need to understand this. I don't usually make these type of videos. I mean, sometimes I do. It's no secret that on my channel, I've spoken about Resident Evil in the past a couple of times because I'm very passionate about it. And I also want to make more game-centric content because, I have my podcast, but I have a YouTube channel, right? So why not have a variety of things to talk about? But I was really passionate about this one in particular because I really felt it. Like, deep down in my core, I knew that this wasn't right. Why are you going to change the complete makeup of this game? So where was IGN complaining when RE4 Remake came out? So should you have told them not to go to Spain and go somewhere else completely different? No, that's just the setting that the game took place in. When your game series is about bio-global terrorism, essentially, that's all over the world. So you're going to have different land masses where these things take place. I don't want to stand on my high horse and be like, oh, how dare you judge the vision of these creators? There's definitely a couple of things that could change. The game's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I'd be a fool to say that it is. But for you to say that you need to basically change the entire game because of this one thing, that's ignorant. And that's probably why your company's called IGN. And you know what? It wasn't always like this. I didn't look this up, but I'm pretty sure they got good ratings the first time around from IGN when the original game came out. I'll have to look this up to confirm. I could be wrong. You can let me know in the comments below if you think I'm full of crap. I'm gonna play the game. You're gonna play the game. Let's face it. Everybody that's saying they're not gonna play because of this, you're all lying to yourselves. You're all gonna play it. You're all going to artificially get angry and upset about something that's not even really a big deal in the grand scheme of things. With all the things happening in the world, you're really gonna get upset over a video game. And it's the same thing with people that are talking crap about the Silent Hill 2 remake. You're all still gonna play it. Now, I won't say much about the Silent Hill 2 remake because I will be making a video about that a little later on, just to get my thoughts out on that as well, because I've been meaning to give my perspective on that one too. And I will. It's going to happen. All right. I don't want this video to run on too long because I'm pretty much just saying the same thing over and over again. Listen, use your own judgment. At the end of the day, if you want to support this project, you're going to support it because it's something that you grew up with, or maybe, you're playing the new ones for the first time and you kind of want to just continue the story. Cool. Do it. If you like it, say something nice about it. If you thought the game was bad, then say something negative, whatever. It doesn't matter. But Capcom is not going to change the story. They're not going to change it. And you're counting on it so that you can have something else negative to say when they don't. And with that said, you're all awesome. Don't ever let anyone tell you different. Signing off.